Meghan Markle takes another embarrassing hit as she also wants the royals to publicly show their support for her jam.
So Meghan Markle and Martha Stewart met. They met recently, and in a People interview dated August 3rd, Martha Stewart said she overheard Meghan Markle at a dinner party recently talking about a private family reunion she had with King Charles.
Did David Foster snub Meghan Markle at his charity event or not? Does he even like her?
They, I think, came together because they both needed extra comfort.
When Harry married Meghan, that she was going to be curating, orchestrating, directing, producing.
Meghan Markle built a lifestyle brand around control, elegance, and a carefully curated image. But suddenly, that image is becoming the story itself. From as ever's shrinking online traffic, to the Martha Stewart controversy, to an awkward David Foster gala moment, the same question keeps coming back. Is Meghan losing control of the very brand she worked so hard to build? And what makes this more interesting is that these are not three completely unrelated stories. Put them together, and they reveal a much bigger problem.
Devastating blow as new figures have come out revealing how well her lifestyle brand As Ever is actually doing. So let's get through it. So her brand As Ever has attracted more visitors to its website than King Charles Highgrove Gardens online shop. But a new figure suggests that the digital audience has weakened considerably during 2026.
There was a time when Meghan Markle seemed to have found the formula. The royal connection gave her global recognition. Hollywood gave her celebrity credibility. And then came the lifestyle world. Recipes, hosting, products, flowers, food, home, fashion, wellness, and eventually As Ever. The idea was obvious. Meghan was no longer simply the former actress who married into the royal family. She was becoming a lifestyle personality, a modern homemaking and luxury brand, a woman who could turn her taste, her image, and her personal story into a business. And on paper, it was a very smart strategy. But there is a problem with building a business around personal image.
As Ever is Meghan's lifestyle company, which launched on May 4th of last year. Netflix partnered and then left. However, in March 2026, the two sides announced Netflix would no longer be involved, and the brand described itself as more than a brand. It's a love language, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's get to the numbers. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it recorded its lowest monthly traffic figure of 2026 in July with 126,000 visits.
The moment people stop buying the image, they start examining it. And that is exactly what appears to be happening now. The As Ever problem. The first warning sign comes from the numbers surrounding As Ever. One of the commentators highlighted traffic figures showing that the brand's website received approximately 126,000 visits in July 2026, compared with around 268,000 in January. That represents a decline of roughly 53% over that period. The same source says traffic fell in every month except one, producing an average of approximately 176,000 visits per month.
That compares with 268,000 visits in January, a decline of roughly 53%. And that comes in from Newsweek. Newsweek has traditionally been pretty pro-Meghan. Yikes. Traffic fell in every month except for one during that period, producing a 6-month average of 176,000 visits. In a month, that's bad. That is bad. That means no return cut. That is a low number for someone of her supposed stature.
Now, there is an important qualification here. These are similar web estimates, not As Ever's private sales figures. And As Ever's spokesperson pushed back against the comparison, arguing that website traffic isn't necessarily the most meaningful measurement for a consumer business. The more important numbers, they said, are customers, repeat purchases, and sales. That is a perfectly reasonable business argument. Website traffic alone does not tell you whether a company is profitable.
So, not surprised As Ever. The As Ever spokesman told Newsweek, comparing As Ever's traffic with royal website is probably not an especially meaningful comparison. as ever as a consumer business where the more relevant measures are customers' repeat purchases and sales rather than raw website visits. Okay, sure. Traffic naturally rises around launches and then settles as the initial curiosity subsides. The focus on building a sustainable brand and loyal customer base, not chasing page views. Interesting.
But there is another reason these numbers matter: perception. When a celebrity launches a lifestyle company, attention is part of the product. The entire model depends on people wanting to click, watch, follow, buy, and participate in that world. And when online attention starts moving in the opposite direction, critics are naturally going to ask whether the excitement surrounding the brand is fading. That is why this isn't simply a story about 126,000 visits. It is about whether the enormous public attention that once surrounded Meghan's every move can actually be converted into long-term consumer interest. And that question becomes even more uncomfortable when you look at what happened next.
She wants the royals to help by publicly showing their support. Just one Instagram mention, please. Please help my jam. She's really hoping that Prince Harry will get the family to publicly show their support for as if. It wouldn't take much, the source says. Just one Instagram mention from Princess Beatrice or Eugenie, or in a dream world from the king.
Because according to the commentator's transcript, there were reports that Meghan wanted members of the royal family to publicly support as ever, potentially through something as simple as an Instagram mention. The transcript even speculates about members of the royal family publicly promoting the products. But there is an obvious problem. The royal family cannot simply become a marketing department for a commercial brand. And that creates a fascinating contradiction. Meghan's entire post-royal strategy has been built around establishing an identity independent of the institution. Yet, when the brand needs attention, critics are now asking whether the royal connection is suddenly useful again. That is the irony. The royal association may have been something Meghan wanted to leave behind professionally, but it remains one of the most powerful engines of attention surrounding her personally.
Meghan has even sent gift baskets with her new honey to Charles and Queen Camilla and to everyone else in the family too. She's convinced that once they try it, they'll understand what all the fuss is about and they'll want to get on board. While Harry is Meghan's number one cheerleader, he's very clear that asking for favors now is the quickest way to undo all the progress they've made. I mean, that's true. If he's really saying that out loud, bravo for once, Harry's not being dumb. That's not how that monarchy works. They can't suddenly start endorsing commercial brands, and he's not going to set up another disappointment by promising that it can happen, nor is he going to put everything he's been working towards at risk.
And that brings us to Martha Stewart. This is where the lifestyle image gets much more interesting. Because Meghan's brand is not simply selling products, it is selling a version of Meghan herself. The polished host, the homemaker, the woman who understands food, entertaining, and beautiful living. So when Martha Stewart enters the conversation, the stakes are automatically higher. According to the transcript, Martha Stewart discussed a recent dinner party conversation involving Meghan, and reportedly mentioned Meghan speaking about a private family reunion involving King Charles. The commentator then focused heavily on Martha's remarks about the difficulty of transitioning from being a princess to becoming a homemaking professional.
So Meghan Markle and Martha Stewart met. They met recently, and in a People interview dated August 3rd, Martha Stewart said she overheard Meghan Markle at a dinner party recently talking about a private family reunion she had with King Charles with Harry when they went over there. And Martha said she talked about it. She just gotten back and she talked about it. And that's the comment in which she said it's very hard to transition from a princess into a homemaking professional. Okay, like not everybody can do it.
And then things escalated. Reports cited in the transcript said that Meghan's side disputed Martha's account and suggested that Martha may have been confused because Meghan wasn't seated near her. That response became a story of its own, and this is where the controversy becomes more damaging than the original comment. Because if Martha had simply made an offhand observation at a dinner party, that could have disappeared within a day. But once there is a public disagreement over what happened, suddenly everyone wants to know, why did this become such a big deal? Critics interpreted the response as another example of Meghan's image management instinct.
She was so pissed that Martha had taken a shot at her and told everybody that Meghan was mouthing off about her visit with the king, that she had her people, somebody, contact, it was in the Daily Mail, and report that, quote, Martha must have been confused because Meghan was not seated anywhere near Martha. And then the Daily Beast reported on this saying, Meghan did something incredibly stupid here.
Now, we have to be careful here. The transcript contains strong opinions from commentators. Their claims about Meghan's motives are their interpretations, not independently established facts. But from a storytelling perspective, the controversy exposes a genuine vulnerability. Meghan's lifestyle brand depends on appearing effortless, relaxed, natural, authentic, yet every time a relatively small incident turns into a media dispute, that effortless image becomes harder to maintain. And that is the bigger problem. The issue isn't necessarily Martha Stewart. The issue is the optics of the reaction, because lifestyle brands are built on trust. People don't just buy jam or honey or a recipe, they buy into a personality. They buy the fantasy of a certain life. And the moment the personality becomes more controversial than the product, the brand starts working backwards.
She seems to have gotten the host of the party to call up People magazine and say that Martha's account was simply untrue and that Meghan did not talk about her European vacation other than to say the family had a great time. Worse, they called Martha confused, implying that Martha, 85, is a dotty old lady. And the position here is that this is incredibly stupid, writes Tom Sykes of the Daily Beast, because Martha's not going to take well to that. And though she may be 85, she's sharp as a tack.
Instead of people talking about the food, they're talking about the feud. Instead of discussing the recipe, they're discussing who said what at dinner. Instead of talking about the lifestyle, they're talking about Meghan's relationship with the media. And suddenly the product disappears. That is not what a lifestyle brand wants. But then came another moment that made the same issue impossible to ignore. The David Foster Foundation's 30th anniversary gala should have been almost perfect for Meghan and Harry. It was charitable. It was celebrity-driven. It involved established entertainment figures. And most importantly, it offered the Sussexes an opportunity to be photographed in a positive environment without having to create the event themselves. Then a short video clip appeared. And the internet did what the internet always does. It slowed the moment down.
So we're going to get into the Meg's latest fail caught on camera on this, step and repeat. I hate to call it a red carpet because it's not an actual red carpet, but that's how we talk about these moments where the celebrities walk up and have their little publicity shots. But we're going to be getting into what the actual problem is here from a PR perspective with what just happened and the headlines that overshadowed the actual charitable gala that was supposed to be making headlines that weekend.
People watched Meghan's hand gestures, they watched David Foster, they watched where everyone was standing, and suddenly the question became, did David Foster snub Meghan Markle? The footage was interpreted by some commentators and social media users as Meghan appearing to direct Foster where to stand, followed by Foster seeming to walk past her extended arm. That became the viral moment. But here's where the story gets more complicated. David Foster's side reportedly rejected the idea that there had been a snub. The explanation was that Foster had already greeted Harry and Meghan inside, regarded them as friends, and that the moment in question was simply about positioning everyone for the best photograph.
David and Meg and Harry and Catherine were all getting together for a photo at this gala event that Meghan and Harry attended for David and Catherine's foundation. And everyone is debating whether David Foster delivered the ultimate red carpet snub to Meghan Markle, but honestly, focusing on the potential snub and what happened between Meghan and Harry in this fleeting split-second moment completely misses the forest for the trees. The real story here has nothing to do with David Foster and everything to do with a chronic, undeniable need to try to micromanage the optics on Meghan's part. It's something we have seen her do time and time again.
So, was it actually a snub? We don't know. And honestly, that isn't even the most interesting part. The interesting part is what happened after the clip appeared, because once again, Meghan's behavior became the headline instead of the charitable event. And that is a PR problem. A gala designed to generate positive attention generated a debate about body language. A charitable appearance became an argument about etiquette. A photograph became a referendum on Meghan's personality. And critics immediately connected it to something they say has appeared repeatedly in other public appearances: the perception that Meghan tries to control positioning, optics, and presentation. The transcript specifically points to previous polo-related moments and argues that the repeated gestures create a perception of micromanagement. Again, that is commentary, not proof of intent. Maybe Meghan was simply trying to help organize a photograph. Maybe she was nervous. Maybe she was trying to make sure everyone fit into the frame. Maybe Foster simply didn't see the gesture in the way people online interpreted it. There are several possible explanations.
A gala like this for a charitable event where Meghan and Harry didn't donate money, no, but they donated their time, is supposed to be one of those easy moments to get some positive publicity for yourself. But instead, Meghan finds herself getting negative publicity from these textbook simple things that are literally designed for a celebrity to get good publicity. How can you mess it up? It's simple. Just smile for the photo and move on. But the Meg can't do that. She can't let it be. She's constantly trying to direct the scene, which means that she actually forgets to just exist in it, and it inherently rubs people the wrong way.
But here's the brutal reality of celebrity PR: intent doesn't always matter. Optics do. If millions of people watch a 2-second clip and interpret it negatively, the explanation that comes later has to fight against the first impression. And critics argue that this is exactly where Meghan's public image has become vulnerable. The initial clip creates the controversy, then comes the explanation. But by that point, the internet has already moved on, and the negative interpretation is already circulating. That creates a cycle. The image is carefully managed. Something unexpected happens. People criticize it, then the reaction becomes another story, and the reaction to the reaction becomes another story. Eventually, the attempt to control the narrative becomes the narrative. This is where the separate stories begin to connect. The as-ever numbers are about attention. The Martha Stewart controversy is about credibility and authenticity. The David Foster moment is about public optics and control. And the discussion around Harry's family introduces something even deeper.
She finally gets herself into this situation where she's surrounded by a real A-list celebrity of David Foster, somebody who is immensely successful and has been on the scene in the industry for a much longer time than Meg ever has, and she screws the whole thing up instantly. The entire thing, all the efforts, she would have been better off staying home. So here's the facts. This was the David Foster Foundation's 40th anniversary gala held on August 7 in Victoria, British Columbia. Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, David Foster, and his wife, Catherine McPhee, were gathering for group photos on the carpet, and a video clip caught Meghan using her hand gestures like she usually does, her hyper hand gestures, to seemingly direct David Foster on where to stand.
What happens when personal relationships, celebrity identity, and public image become completely intertwined? One of the other transcripts features Dr. Sue Kornbluth discussing unhealthy isolation within relationships. She makes an important distinction. Healthy relationships still allow partners to maintain connections with their families, while persistent attempts to isolate someone from their family can become a red flag. When asked specifically about Harry and Meghan, the discussion points to the distance between Harry and his family and raises the possibility of unhealthy dynamics, while also repeatedly acknowledging that this is an allegation and not something they can definitively establish from the outside. That distinction matters. We cannot know the private reality of their marriage. We cannot know what conversations happen behind closed doors, and we certainly cannot diagnose two people based on public appearances. But the reason this topic keeps returning is because the Sussex story has always been about relationships and image at the same time.
You had a close relationship with your parents. It's wonderful. It's great. However, when you get married, your spouse then becomes the number one person in your life. You're going to build a family with this person. You're going to have kids with this person. So you're building a life outside of the construct of what your family was before. Healthy boundaries at that point is, it's different for everyone, but maybe checking in with your mom or your dad once a day. Hey, what's going on? It's different for everybody. It could be once a week, whatever you're used to. Healthy boundaries are calling up your parents and saying, hey, would you like to go to dinner? Let's put something on the calendar. Or the parents call up the kids and do something like that, right?
Harry's relationship with his family affects Meghan's public narrative. Meghan's relationship with Harry affects her brand narrative. Their royal past affects their commercial narrative. And their commercial success affects how the public everything else exists in isolation anymore. That may actually be the biggest problem Meghan faces. Because when your personal brand becomes the product, every controversy becomes a business problem. This is why I don't think the most interesting question is his ever failing? Or did Martha Stewart insult Meghan? Or did David Foster snub her? Those questions are too small. The bigger question is, why do so many different stories keep arriving at the same destination? A lifestyle brand that is supposed to represent effortless sophistication is generating debates about traffic. A conversation involving Martha Stewart becomes a media controversy. A charity gala becomes a debate about body language. And discussions about Harry's family continue to feed into questions about the couple's overall public image. That's a pattern. Not necessarily a conspiracy, not necessarily evidence that everything is collapsing, but certainly a pattern worth watching. Because Meghan's strategy has always depended on narrative. She has had to constantly redefine herself. Actress, royal, duchess, Hollywood producer, philanthropist, lifestyle personality, entrepreneur, and now businesswoman behind as ever. Every reinvention creates a new opportunity, but every reinvention also creates a new test. And the lifestyle test may be the hardest one yet, because you can't simply announce that you're authentic. You have to make people believe it. You can't simply say the brand is sustainable. Customers have to come back. You can't simply say you're comfortable around celebrity culture. People have to see it. And you can't simply control the narrative, because eventually the audience gets to decide what the narrative actually is.
Meghan has isolated Harry from his family. He no longer talks to them on a regular basis, especially his brother. He might have conversations with King Charles every once in a while, but he seems to still be completely exiled when it comes to his brother, who he was immensely close to after the death of Princess Diana. They move thousands of miles away to a completely different time zone, which throws off, that creates difficulty in communicating when, you're hours apart as well.
And there is one final irony here. The brand was presented as something deeply personal, something built around Meghan's taste, her interests, and her vision of a beautiful everyday life. But the more public scrutiny the brand receives, the less people are discussing that everyday life. They're discussing Meghan, they're discussing Harry, they're discussing the royal family, they're discussing Martha Stewart, they're discussing David Foster, they're discussing headlines, they're discussing body language, they're discussing traffic statistics. In other words, the brand is supposed to be the product, but Meghan Markle remains the product people are watching. And that may be the biggest challenge of all. Because if people are coming to the website because they're curious about Meghan, curiosity can produce a spike. But curiosity doesn't necessarily create loyalty. A sustainable business needs customers who return when the headline disappears. And that is precisely the part the available traffic estimates cannot answer. Are people actually becoming loyal customers? Are they buying repeatedly? Are they recommending the products? Is As Ever becoming a genuine lifestyle business? Or is it primarily benefiting from the enormous attention that follows Meghan Markle wherever she goes? Those are very different things. And until the business reveals more of those underlying numbers, nobody outside the company can honestly claim to know the complete picture.
While Harry is Meghan's number one cheerleader, he's very clear that asking for favors now is the quickest way to undo all the progress they've made. I mean, that's true. If he's really saying that out loud, bravo for once, Harry's not being dumb. That's not how that monarchy works. They can't suddenly start endorsing commercial brands, and he's not going to set up another disappointment by promising that it can happen, nor is he going to put everything he's been working towards at risk. That's, again, why I just feel like there's no way. Really? You really think she's doing that? That seems crazy to me that she could even consider it. There's all this talk about them building on the reunion in London, continuing the peace path, unless Martha Stewart messed it up for them. More meetings soon. Harry has promised her that it's legitimate that Charles is on their side, so she really can't understand why this is too much of an ask.
But one thing is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The biggest threat to Meghan's lifestyle brand may not be one competitor, one critic, one celebrity, or one bad headline. It may be the gap between the carefully curated image and the increasingly chaotic conversation surrounding it. And once the audience starts looking behind the curtain, controlling the picture becomes much harder. Maybe the as-ever numbers rebound. Maybe the Martha controversy disappears. Maybe the David Foster clip becomes yesterday's news. Maybe the Sussexes successfully rebuild their royal relationships. Any of those things could happen. But if Meghan wants as ever to become more than another celebrity project, the next stage cannot simply be about generating attention. It has to be about earning trust after the attention fades. Because attention can launch a brand, celebrity can introduce a brand, royal connections can amplify a brand, but only customers can sustain one. And right now, that's the question hanging over Meghan Markle's carefully constructed lifestyle empire. When the headlines stop doing the work, will the brand be strong enough to do it itself? But the question is Meghan Markle really losing control of the brand she worked so hard to build? If you want to see what happens next, click on the video on your screen right now. You won't want to miss it. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Hollywood and royal stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.